Have you ever just felt stuck? Like you know you're capable of so much more, but something is just holding you back? Well, we're going to dive into Ayodeji Awosika's You 2.0 and explore this really radical idea of personal reinvention. And I'm not just talking about tweaking a few habits. I'm talking about creating a whole new you.
You know that feeling, right? That nagging question in the back of your mind? You're unfulfilled, you feel like you're stuck in a rut, and you start wondering if that dream career or that big passion project, if that life you always pictured for yourself somehow just passed you by. It turns out, that feeling, that question, that's often the very first step towards something incredible.
And this quote right here, this gets to the absolute heart of it. Reinvention is all about grabbing the pen from whoever's been writing your story, your job, your family, society, your past, and finally writing your own story on your own terms.
So why is it so hard to change? Why do our big plans and New Year's resolutions seem to fail year after year? Well, Awosika argues it's because we're trying to change our behavior without changing the person behind the behavior. It's kind of like trying to run brand new software on really old, outdated hardware. It just doesn't work.
Okay, I know that sounds a little harsh, but it's such a crucial insight. Think about it. The you of today is a product of all the habits and beliefs that got you to this exact point. To get somewhere new, you need a new architect. You literally need a new version of yourself.
And that is the big difference here. Change is like putting a patch on an old tire. Reinvention is building a whole new car from the ground up. It's about letting go of the identity that's keeping you stuck and consciously, intentionally creating a new one.
Okay, so if we're going to build this new you, we first have to understand the old one. I mean, where did it even come from? The answer, it turns out, is in the stories we've been telling ourselves our entire lives.
I absolutely love this metaphor of a quilt. It shows that your identity isn't some fixed, concrete thing. It's more like this patchwork quilt, pieced together from stories from your parents, your culture, all your past experiences. So, reinvention is really just the process of looking at that quilt and deciding which patches you want to keep and which ones you're ready to replace.
And you know, the most powerful stories we tell are the ones that start with those two little words, I am. When you say I am lazy or I am bad with money, you're not just describing a behavior anymore. You're cementing an identity. And that becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy that's incredibly hard to break out of.
So how do we actually fix this? It's a three-step process. First, you got to identify those limiting I am statements. Second, go back and find even one single piece of evidence from your past that proves it's not 100% true. And finally, and this is the game changer, you reframe it. I am lazy becomes I'm working on becoming more disciplined. See? It turns a fixed identity into a flexible process of growth.
All right, now for what might be the most powerful metaphor in this entire concept, the phoenix. It's this beautiful reminder that to be reborn, to build something totally new, you have to be brave enough to let the old you burn away.
This whole process kicks off with a really brutally honest look in the mirror. It means examining your past decisions, your mistakes, all those what-ifs, not to beat yourself up, but to truly understand the patterns that got you here in the first place without making any excuses. After you've examined the past, the next step is to just accept it. You forgive yourself for the things you did or didn't do. You forgive the world for the circumstances you were in. This isn't about saying it was okay. It's about making the decision to stop carrying all that heavy baggage into your future.
And this is the symbolic death. It's the moment you make a conscious decision to kill off the parts of your identity that have been holding you back. All the fear, the self-doubt, those limiting beliefs. You metaphorically choke the life out of that person who is always too afraid to even try. So I've got to ask you directly, what stories, what I am statements, what parts of your old self are you ready to set on fire and turn to ash just to make room for something new to grow?
So once you've wiped that slate clean, how do we actually build You 2.0? Well, the answer isn't to go on some grand quest to find your one true calling. It's much simpler. Start treating your life like a scientist treats a laboratory.
This idea is so freeing. Awosika basically says that passion isn't something you just find hiding under a rock somewhere. It's a byproduct of action. You get curious about something, you start doing it, you build some skill, and then the passion follows. It comes from the work itself.
And this is where that lab coat and goggles approach comes in. You just use the scientific method. Start with a simple question, like, I wonder if I'd enjoy coding. Do a little research, form a hypothesis. If I code for 30 days straight, I'll find it really fulfilling. Then, just run the experiment. It's a super structured, low-stakes way to explore new versions of yourself.
So how long should you run these little life experiments? Well, Research suggests it takes, on average, about 66 days to form a new habit. And that's kind of the sweet spot. It's not a scary lifelong commitment, it's just a little over 2 months to test drive a new path and see if it's the right fit for you. Now, all of this sounds great in theory, right? But there's an enemy, an invisible force that is waiting to fight you every single step of the way. Awosika, borrowing a term from author Stephen Pressfield, calls it the resistance. You know, the resistance. It's that voice in your head that whispers, "It's too late," or "You're not smart enough," or, my personal favorite, "Just do it tomorrow." The genius of giving this force a name is that you can externalize it. It's not you, it's an enemy, and enemies can be fought. And you've got to realize this battle is fought on two fronts. There's the internal war against your own fears and procrastination, but there's also an external one against people, sometimes well-meaning people, who, for whatever reason, want to keep you right where you are in your old familiar box. So how do you win this war? You can't outsmart the resistance. You can't wait until you feel motivated. There is only one weapon in your arsenal that actually works: doing the work. Just showing up day after day, especially on the days you don't feel like it. That is how you win.
And really, the most powerful takeaway from all of this is that reinvention isn't some one-and-done event. It's a skill you can learn, it's a tool that you can pull out of your toolbox anytime you feel stuck, anytime you hit a plateau, or anytime you're just ready for the next chapter of your life. So this whole process leaves you with one final, incredibly powerful question. The slate is clean, the laboratory is open for business, and all the tools are right here in your hands. The person you used to be is gone. The only thing left to decide now is, who are you going to become next?